The cigar sat on Fidel Castro's desk, wrapped in brown paper delivered by his security team. It looked like his favorite brand, Cohiba. The same cigars he'd smoked for years, but this one was different. This one was loaded with enough explosives to blow his head off. It was attempt number 87 to kill the Cuban leader, and like the 86 before it, and the 551 after it, it would fail. But Castro knew. He always knew. That's why he kept the cigar in a glass case in his office, labeled simply, "Gift from the CIA," a trophy from the world's most powerful intelligence agency that couldn't kill one man on an island 90 miles from Florida. 638 times. That's how many assassination attempts the CIA orchestrated against Fidel Castro: exploding cigars, poisoned milkshakes, mafia hitmen, toxic diving suits, seashells rigged with bombs. Plans so absurd they sound like rejected James Bond plots, but they were real, every single one. This is the story of Operation Mongoose, the most extensive assassination program in CIA history. The story of how America's best spies, working with unlimited budgets and presidential approval, failed over and over again. The story that proves sometimes reality is stranger than fiction, and sometimes the world's most powerful nation can't kill a single man who mocks them daily from his palace in Havana. But here's what the CIA doesn't want you to know: every failed attempt made Castro stronger. Every botched assassination turned him from a regional revolutionary into a global legend. The CIA didn't just fail to kill Castro, they made him immortal. November 30, 1961, President John F. Kennedy signed a top-secret memorandum. The subject, Operation Mongoose. The objective, overthrow the Castro regime by October 1962. The methods, all available assets. That was code for assassination, sabotage, and terrorism. The American president had just authorized the murder of a foreign leader. Edward Lansdale, the Air Force general put in charge, gathered his team at the CIA's headquarters in Langley. "Gentlemen," he said, "we're going to eliminate Castro. The president wants him gone. I don't care how we do it. Get creative." Creative. That word would define the next decade of CIA operations against Cuba. Because when conventional assassination failed, the agency got weird. Really weird. The first attempts were straightforward. Sam Giancana, boss of the Chicago mob, met with CIA operative Robert Maheu at the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami Beach. The deal was simple. The Mafia wanted their casinos back in Havana. The CIA wanted Castro dead. Win-win. The CIA gave Giancana poison pills developed in their technical services division. The pills would dissolve in Castro's food or drink, causing death that looked like natural causes. Juan Orta, Castro's secretary, was recruited to slip the pills into his boss's coffee. For weeks, Orta carried the lethal capsules, waiting for the right moment. But Castro, paranoid about his food since taking power, had started switching meals with his bodyguards at random. Orta watched Castro's bodyguard drink the coffee meant for the leader. The opportunity passed. Orta lost his nerve and fled to the Venezuelan embassy. Attempt number 1 failed. But the CIA was just getting started. Desmond Fitzgerald, chief of the CIA's Cuba task force, called a meeting in early 1962. "If we can't poison him, we'll shoot him." The agency recruited Rolando Cubella, a disillusioned revolutionary with access to Castro. Code name, AMLASH. They gave him a ballpoint pen rigged with a poison needle. One prick and Castro would be dead in seconds. But on the day Cubella was supposed to strike, November 22, 1963, something happened that changed everything. President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. As Cubella stood near Castro with the poison pen in his pocket, news of JFK's death reached Havana. Castro turned to his aides and said, "This is bad news." Then, looking directly at Cubella, he added, "They say we do these things, but we don't. We are not assassins." Cubella's blood ran cold. Did Castro know? The revolutionary leader's eyes seemed to pierce right through him. Cubella excused himself, went to the bathroom, and flushed the poison pen down the toilet. Attempt number 147 failed. Here's where it gets absolutely insane. With conventional methods failing, the CIA's Technical Services Division went full mad scientist. They knew Castro loved to scuba dive in the Bay of Pigs. Yes, the same bay where the CIA's invasion had failed spectacularly. So they developed a plan to kill him underwater. James Donovan, the lawyer negotiating prisoner exchanges after the Bay of Pigs, was given a diving suit as a gift for Castro. The suit was dusted with a fungus that would cause a chronic skin disease. The breathing apparatus was contaminated with tuberculosis bacteria. Castro would put on the suit and slowly die from multiple infections. But Donovan, unaware of the plot, bought Castro a different diving suit as a genuine gesture of goodwill. The CIA's poisoned wetsuit sat in a lengthy storage room, another monument to failure. Attempt number 234 failed. But wait, the absurdity reaches new heights. Castro's love for diving inspired an even more bizarre plot. The CIA decided to plant an explosive seashell in his favorite diving spot. Painted in bright colors to attract attention, the shell would detonate when lifted. They spent months developing the technology, testing different shells, calculating explosive yields. The problem: Castro's security team swept his diving areas before every swim. Plus, the logistics of planting a specific shell where Castro would definitely pick it up proved impossible. The exploding seashell plan was shelved, but not before consuming thousands of man-hours and taxpayer dollars. Attempt number 267 failed before it started. By 1963, the CIA was desperate. They tried everything. Thallium salts in his shoes to make his beard fall out and destroy his macho image. LSD in his broadcast studio to make him sound insane during speeches. A poisoned fountain pen, exploding baseballs, infected handkerchiefs, each plan more elaborate and ridiculous than the last. But here's what makes this story truly unbelievable: Castro knew about most of these plots. Cuban intelligence had penetrated the CIA's operations so thoroughly that Castro often joked about assassination attempts in his speeches. "The CIA wants to kill me," he told a crowd in 1963. "They've tried poison, bullets, explosives. What's next? A piano falling from the sky." Fabian Escalante, Castro's former intelligence chief, kept meticulous records. He counted 638 separate CIA plots to kill his boss. Some made it to the execution phase. Others died in planning, but every single one failed. How? The answer reveals the real tragedy of Operation Mongoose. The CIA was so infiltrated by Cuban double agents that most plots were compromised from the start. Castro's intelligence service, the DGI, had turned numerous CIA assets. They were playing chess while the CIA played checkers. Take the case of Marita Lawrence, Castro's former lover recruited by the CIA in 1960. They gave her poison pills to put in his drink. She flew to Havana, met Castro in his hotel room. He was waiting for her. "Did you come to kill me?" he asked, handing her his gun. "If you want to kill me, kill me." Lawrence broke down crying. She confessed everything. Castro comforted her, made love to her, and sent her back to Miami unharmed. The CIA debriefed her, furious at another failure. They never knew Castro had been tipped off days before her arrival. Attempt number 43 failed by design. The Mafia connection gets even darker. Johnny Rosselli, the mob's man in Havana, worked directly with the CIA. His job: coordinate hits using Mafia connections in Cuba. But here's what the CIA didn't know: Rosselli was playing all sides. He took CIA money, reported fake progress, and may have been selling information to Castro through intermediaries. In 1976, Rosselli's body was found in an oil drum floating in Miami's Biscayne Bay. He'd been strangled, shot, and dismembered. His legs were cut off to fit in the drum. Some say the mob killed him for testifying to Congress. Others believe Cuban agents silenced him. The truth died with him in that drum. Meanwhile, Santo Traficante Jr., another mob boss working with the CIA, was even more duplicitous. Captured in Cuba in 1959, he was mysteriously released and allowed to return to Florida. CIA files, declassified decades later, suggest Traficante might have been turned by Cuban intelligence. Every CIA plot he touched failed spectacularly. But here's the smoking gun nobody talks about. In 1975, Senator Frank Church led congressional hearings on CIA assassination attempts. The testimony was explosive. CIA directors admitted to partnering with the Mafia. They confirmed poison pens, exploding seashells, and infected diving suits. They revealed a program so extensive it had its own budget line: executive action. But the most damning revelation: the CIA continued trying to kill Castro even after signing international agreements banning assassination. Through the 1970s, 1980s, even into the 1990s, plots continued. The agency couldn't stop. It had become an obsession. One CIA operative, speaking anonymously to investigators, explained, "It wasn't about Cuba anymore. It was about pride." This bearded revolutionary on a tiny island was making the world's premier intelligence agency look incompetent. Every day Castro lived was a day the CIA failed. The numbers are staggering. 638 assassination attempts, hundreds of CIA operatives involved, millions of dollars spent, partnerships with the Mafia, Cuban exiles, and foreign intelligence services. The resources dedicated to killing one man could have funded hospitals, schools, or legitimate intelligence gathering. Instead, it funded exploding cigars. But Castro turned every failure into propaganda gold. He gave tour of the Museum of the Revolution, showing off CIA weapons designed to kill him. He'd pull out the exploding cigar, the poison pens, photographs of would-be assassins. "Look what the mighty United States sends to kill me," he'd laugh. "And I'm still here." Each failed attempt made him stronger. To Cubans, he became invincible. To Latin American revolutionaries, he was David defeating Goliath daily. To the world, he was proof that American power had limits. The CIA's incompetence created a legend. Here's the part that should terrify you. Operation Mongoose established precedents still used today. The idea that America could assassinate foreign leaders it didn't like. The partnership between intelligence agencies and organized crime. The use of biological and chemical weapons. The willingness to violate international law for regime change. Every modern CIA controversy has roots in Operation Mongoose. From Iran to Chile, from Afghanistan to Iraq, the patterns repeat. Identify a leader we don't like, authorize their removal, use any means necessary, fail spectacularly, deny everything, repeat. But Castro's survival exposed a fundamental truth. Assassination doesn't work. Kill a leader and create a martyr. Fail to kill them and create a legend. Either way, you lose. The CIA spent decades learning this lesson and apparently forgot it immediately. The personal cost was enormous. Hundreds of Cuban exiles died in operations linked to Mongoose. Men recruited with promises of liberating their homeland instead died in prisons, in shootouts, in accidents that weren't accidents. Their families never learned the truth. The CIA abandoned assets when operations failed, denying any connection. Felix Rodriguez, a Cuban exile who worked with the CIA, later wrote, "We were tools, disposable tools. When we succeeded, the agency took credit. When we failed, we didn't exist. How many friends did I lose to Operation Mongoose? Too many to count." American operatives suffered too. Some developed guilt-induced alcoholism. Others had mental breakdowns. A few disappeared entirely. Whether they defected, were killed, or simply walked away remains classified. The psychological toll of spending years plotting murder, even state-sanctioned murder, broke many. But here's the ultimate irony. Fidel Castro died on November 25, 2016, in his bed, of natural causes, at age 90, after surviving 11 American presidents, 638 assassination attempts, and the collapse of his Soviet patrons. The man the CIA couldn't kill outlived most of the men who tried to kill him. His brother Raul now leads Cuba. The regime continues. The embargo remains. Nothing Operation Mongoose set out to accomplish succeeded. Billions of dollars, countless lives, and America's moral authority all wasted on exploding cigars and poison pens. Declassified documents reveal the final insult. In the 1990s, as the Soviet Union collapsed and Cuba struggled economically, Castro sent a message through intermediaries to the CIA. Tell them they can stop trying to kill me. I'm old now. Let me die in peace. The CIA's response. They authorized attempt number 638, a plot involving poisoned medication that failed when Cuban intelligence intercepted the shipment. They literally couldn't stop trying. This is where your money went. Every American taxpayer funded Operation Mongoose. Your parents' taxes paid for exploding seashells. Your grandparents' taxes bought poison pens. Generations of Americans unwittingly financed the world's most expensive, most ridiculous, most unsuccessful murder plot. And it's still happening. Different targets, same methods. The CIA's current assassination program uses drones instead of exploding cigars, but the principle remains. America reserves the right to kill foreign leaders it doesn't like. Operation Mongoose proved it doesn't work. We do it anyway. In his final years, Castro loved telling assassination stories. His favorite involved a beautiful woman who approached him at a reception in 1971. Cuban intelligence warned she was CIA, possibly carrying poison. Castro danced with her anyway. "If she's going to kill me," he said, "at least I'll die dancing with a beautiful woman." She didn't kill him. Years later, she admitted she lost her nerve when Castro whispered in her ear, "I know who sent you. Tell them I said hello." Classic Castro, turning even assassination into a joke at CIA's expense. The documents tell the real story. Page after page of CIA memos, now declassified, reveal an agency driven mad by failure. Suggestions get progressively more unhinged. A memo from 1964 seriously proposes training dolphins to attach explosives to Castro's boat. Another suggests hypnotizing a Cuban child to shoot Castro during a public appearance. By the late 1960s, CIA psychiatrists were warning about institutional psychosis within the Cuba division. Agents were becoming paranoid, seeing Cuban double agents everywhere, often correctly. The failure to kill Castro was driving the agency insane. One memo, written in 1969, states simply, "Perhaps we should consider that Castro cannot be killed by conventional or unconventional means. Alternative approaches should be explored." Even then, they couldn't admit defeat. They just needed alternative approaches. Here's what they don't teach in history class. Operation Mongoose poisoned U.S.-Cuba relations for generations. Every time diplomacy might have worked, another assassination plot would be exposed, destroying trust. The CIA's obsession with killing Castro prevented any possibility of normal relations. Think about that. We could have had trade with Cuba, cultural exchanges, tourism, normal diplomatic relations. Instead, we got 638 failed assassination attempts and a 60-year embargo that hurt ordinary Cubans while strengthening Castro's grip on power. The Bay of Pigs invasion failed partly because the CIA was simultaneously trying to assassinate Castro. They couldn't decide between invasion and assassination, so both failed. The missile crisis happened partly because Castro, tired of assassination attempts, invited Soviet protection. Operation Mongoose nearly triggered nuclear war. The survivors tell different stories. Some CIA operatives remain unrepentant. "We should have tried harder," one retired officer told Congress in 2001. "If we'd succeeded with attempt number 10 or 100 or 600, think how different the world would be." Others see it differently. Howard Hunt, the CIA operative who later orchestrated Watergate, wrote before his death, "Operation Mongoose was madness. We lost our moral compass trying to kill that man. It corrupted everyone it touched." Cuban exiles feel most betrayed. They risked everything believing the CIA would liberate their homeland. Instead, they were pawns in an assassination game that only strengthened Castro. Many died believing liberation was imminent. It never came. But here's the question nobody asks. What if one of those 638 attempts had succeeded? Would Cuba be free today? Or would Castro have become a martyr, his revolution strengthened by American assassination? Would the Soviets have retaliated? Would Latin America have exploded in anti-American revolution? We'll never know, but history suggests assassination creates more problems than it solves. From Caesar to Lincoln to JFK, killing leaders rarely achieves intended outcomes. The CIA spent decades learning this lesson with Castro. Have they learned it? Current drone strike programs suggest not. In 2006, an aging Fidel Castro had surgery. American intelligence detected unusual activity in Havana. Was this finally the end? CIA analysts prepared briefings on post-Castro Cuba. Plans were dusted off. The agency held its breath. Castro recovered. In a televised address, he joked, "I'm sorry to disappoint Bush, but I'm still alive. The CIA will have to update their plans again." Even near death, he couldn't resist mocking his would-be assassins. The final chapter writes itself. Fidel Castro died peacefully on November 25, 2016. No explosions, no poison, no CIA plots, just an old man whose time had come. The agency that spent decades and millions trying to kill him could only watch as he died on his own terms. His funeral became a victory lap. World leaders attended. Millions of Cubans mourned. His death proved what his life had demonstrated, the limits of American power. You can have the world's best intelligence agency, unlimited resources, and presidential authority. Sometimes you still can't kill one man who history decides must live. Operation Mongoose ended officially in 1968. Unofficially, it never ended. Right up to Castro's natural death, elements within the CIA dreamed of being the ones to finally get him. They never did. He outlived them all. Today, tourists in Havana can visit the Museum of the Revolution. In a special room, behind bulletproof glass, sit the instruments of Castro's would-be demise. The exploding cigar, the poisoned pens, the infected diving suit, each labeled with attempt numbers and dates. Castro's final joke on the CIA turning their failures into tourist attractions. The guest book contains thousands of entries. Many Americans write variations of the same thought. "We paid for this." Yes, you did. Every exploding seashell, every poison pill, every failed plot, your tax dollars at work. This is the legacy of Operation Mongoose. An intelligence agency corrupted by obsession, billions wasted on failure, international law shredded for nothing. Cuba is still communist. Castro died a hero to millions. The CIA's reputation forever tainted by exploding cigars. But most importantly, proof that assassination as foreign policy doesn't work. You can't murder your way to regime change. You can't exploding cigar your way to democracy. You can't poison pen your way to freedom. 638 attempts, 638 failures, 638 reasons why Operation Mongoose remains the CIA's most spectacular, most expensive, most embarrassing failure. 638 monuments to institutional insanity. 638 proofs that sometimes the bad guy wins by simply not dying. Fidel Castro beat the CIA by doing the one thing they never expected: living. Every day he drew breath was a victory. Every speech he gave was a mockery. Every year he survived was proof that David could beat Goliath not with a slingshot, but with sheer endurance. Operation Mongoose began with President Kennedy's signature. It ended with Castro's last breath from natural causes. In between, the world's premier intelligence agency reduced itself to Wile E. Coyote, forever chasing a road runner who knew every trick, avoided every trap, and lived to mock another day. 638 failures, one survivor. History's verdict is clear. The CIA lost. Castro won.